What is it about this grant that you and EPA believe is problematic enough to freeze this funding and put potentially 31,000 children at risk?
Senator, who is the grant applicant?
This is to the city of Santa Ana.
You have the biggest, state, so we're going to have to go through every single list of the grant. Well, by the way, with that wind-up, by the way, I understand that you are an aspiring fiction writer. I see why.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel where we tell you the truth that the mainstream media won't. Before we dive into today's content, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button right now. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you never miss when we drop truth bombs like this one. And listen, if you want to support real patriotic content and help us keep fighting the good fight against the radical left establishment, head over to patreon.com/AmericaFirst and support us for as low as $5 a month. Every dollar helps us continue bringing you the unfiltered truth that the corporate media tries to suppress. Your support literally keeps this channel alive and fighting for America. Now, today we're going to break down an absolutely unhinged performance by Adam Schiff, and I mean completely unhinged, where he basically had a meltdown attacking EPA Director Lee Zeldin. And folks, what you're about to see is exactly why the American people rejected the Democrats so decisively in 2024. This is the same Adam Schiff who spent years lying to the American people about Russian collusion, the same guy who weaponized his position to go after President Trump with fake impeachments, and now he's having a complete meltdown because finally we have someone at the EPA who's going to put America first instead of putting radical environmental extremism first.
Master Zeldin, you've only been at the EPA for a few months. But in that time, you've done more to dismantle this agency than probably all of your predecessors put together. That may be a source of pride for you, but it is not for the American people. You've unlawfully terminated grants without justification. You've fired and pushed out some of the best scientists who inform EPA's decision-making. You refuse to spend money that Congress has appropriated to the EPA by law. And you've launched a pro-polluter effort to delete dozens of environmental protections. On top of all this, you've launched an effort to overturn California's Clean Air Act waivers that improve the quality of air breathed by 40 million Californians and by millions more in other states who have adopted California's high standards. That effort, for which my colleagues have decided to eliminate the filibuster to achieve, is not exactly what anyone would call cooperative federalism. But it's your budget that's the ultimate proof of your priorities. You propose cutting America's environmental agency by 55%, meaning that in your view and that of President Trump, more than half of the environmental efforts of the EPA, more than half of the efforts to make sure Americans have clean air and clean water are just a waste. They're just a waste. Meaning that Californians and people all over the country, when they breathe the air, thanks to your good work, it'll mean there's more diesel and more other particulate matter in the air. When they drink a glass of water, they may not be able to see it, but this water that Americans drink is going to have more chemicals like PFAS, forever chemicals in their water. This will be your good work. I want to be very specific about the legacy you're going to leave if you're successful in eliminating half of our efforts to clean our water and our air. Your legacy will be more lung cancer. It'll be more bladder cancer. It'll be more head and neck cancer. It'll be more breast cancer. It'll be more leukemia and pancreatic cancer, more liver cancer, more skin cancer, more kidney cancer, more testicular cancer, more colorectal cancer, more rare cancers of innumerable varieties. That will be your legacy. I don't know that that's a legacy that anyone should want to have. My kids are going to be breathing that air just like yours. My family's going to be drinking the water just like yours. We may not be able to pinpoint just who gets cancer because you've done away with half the budget of those looking out for our clean water and clean air. But it's going to be somebody's kids, it's going to be somebody's family. To put this in more specific terms, there are 22 grants frozen by the EPA focused on improving health and reducing pollution, many of which directly impact children. For example, one project in Santa Ana, California, provided funding to help detect and prevent lead poisoning in children. According to the census, about 10% of the population in Santa Ana are under the age of 9. With a population of about 310,000 people, that means that 31,000 children are at risk of lead poisoning in Santa Ana without this funding. What is it about this grant that you and EPA believe is problematic enough to freeze this funding and put potentially 31,000 children at risk?
Senator, who is the grant applicant?
This is to the city of Santa Ana.
You have the biggest state, so we're going to have to go through every single list of the grant. Well, by the way, with that wind-up, by the way, I understand that you were an aspiring fiction writer. I see why.
Oh, yeah. Well, I understand your view that you can cut half of the agency and it won't affect people's health or their water or their air. That, to me, is a big fiction, Mr. Zeldin.
You've forgotten about the fact of cleaning up
I have to think, Mr. Zeldin, I think, Mr. Zeldin, if your children were drinking water, if your children were drinking water in Santa Ana, Mr. Zeldin, maybe you wouldn't be so cavalier about whether there was lead in their water. Maybe you would give a damn instead of coming in here and suggesting that any grant that takes lead out of the water must be waste, fraud, or abuse because you need the money for a tax cut for rich people because you're totally beholden to the oil industry. You could give a rat's ass about how much cancer your agency causes.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Let me break this down for you piece by piece, because what Schiff is doing here is pure political theater, and it's the kind of dishonest fear-mongering that has destroyed trust in our institutions. Schiff starts by claiming that Director Zeldin has done more to dismantle the EPA in a few months than all previous directors combined. Well, Adam, that's exactly what we voted for. The American people are tired of unelected bureaucrats in Washington telling us how to live our lives, shutting down American energy production, and destroying American jobs in the name of climate change hysteria. When Schiff talks about terminating grants without justification, what he's really talking about is ending the waste, fraud, and abuse that has plagued federal agencies for decades. These aren't sacred programs, folks. These are often slush funds that get distributed to politically connected organizations that advance the left's agenda. The EPA, under previous administrations, became a partisan weapon used to attack American industry, American workers, and American energy independence. Director Zeldin is doing exactly what President Trump promised, draining the swamp and cutting the bureaucratic fat. And notice how Schiff frames this. He talks about firing scientists as if these are neutral, objective researchers just trying to help America. But these are the same scientists who have been pushing climate alarmism for decades, the same people who told us we'd be underwater by now, the same people who want to shut down American oil and gas production while China and India pump out more pollution than ever. These aren't objective scientists, they're political activists with degrees, and they've been using their positions to advance a radical environmental agenda that hurts working Americans. Schiff then goes after the California Clean Air Act waivers, and this is where you really see the elitist mindset of the left. California has some of the most extreme environmental regulations in the country, regulations that make everything more expensive for ordinary Americans. Gas prices, electricity prices, the cost of goods, all of it goes up because of these radical environmental policies. And then California tries to force these policies on the rest of the country through federal waivers. Well, guess what? The people of Ohio, Texas, Florida, and the rest of America shouldn't have to live under California's failed policies. California has rolling blackouts, the highest gas prices in the nation, people leaving the state in record numbers, and Adam Schiff wants to force those same failed policies on all of us. No, thank you. That's not federalism, that's California imperialism, and it's exactly the kind of overreach that President Trump and Director Zeldin are fighting against. But here's where Schiff really loses it. He starts talking about the budget cuts. A 55% reduction in EPA spending, and Schiff acts like this is going to kill people. This is classic liberal fear-mongering, folks. They do this every single time anyone tries to cut government spending. Remember when they said cutting any government program would literally kill people? They said the same thing about welfare reform. They said it about tax cuts. They say it about everything. The truth is, the EPA has become a bloated, inefficient bureaucracy that spends more time advancing political agendas than actually protecting the environment. A lot of these programs are duplicative, wasteful, or actively harmful to American competitiveness. We can protect the environment without destroying American jobs and American energy independence. We can have clean air and clean water without shutting down American manufacturing and sending those jobs to China, where they'll pollute even more. And let's talk about what Schiff conveniently ignores. Under President Trump's first term, we had the cleanest air and water in decades while also achieving energy independence. We proved that you can have a strong economy, good-paying American jobs, and a clean environment all at the same time. You don't need massive government bureaucracies and job-killing regulations to protect the environment. You need smart policies, American innovation, and free market solutions. Then Schiff launches into this absolutely ridiculous fear campaign about cancer. He literally lists off every type of cancer you can think of and claims that EPA budget cuts are going to cause all of them. This is pure hysteria, folks. It's the same kind of scare tactics the left always uses when they can't make a rational argument. They can't defend the waste and inefficiency in these programs, so they resort to emotional manipulation and fear-mongering. The reality is that cancer rates have been declining for decades thanks to American medical innovation, not EPA bureaucrats. The biggest factors in cancer prevention are lifestyle choices, medical screening, and breakthrough treatments developed by American pharmaceutical companies, the same companies that Democrats want to regulate and tax into oblivion. And notice how Schiff makes it personal, talking about his kids and Zeldin's kids breathing the same air. This is classic emotional manipulation. Nobody wants dirty air or water, but that's not what this debate is about. This is about whether we're going to let unelected bureaucrats control every aspect of American life in the name of environmentalism, or whether we're going to trust American ingenuity and free markets to find solutions. The Santa Ana Grant example that Schiff brings up is actually perfect for illustrating the problem with these federal programs. Instead of the federal government micromanaging local issues, why not let local communities and states handle these problems? Why does everything have to run through Washington bureaucrats? Local communities know their problems better than federal agencies, and they can address them more efficiently and effectively. But here's what really got me about this exchange: Schiff's complete disrespect and unprofessional behavior. When Director Zeldin tries to respond, Schiff cuts him off and makes a snide comment about him being an aspiring fiction writer. This is exactly the kind of elitist condescension that drove voters to reject Democrats across the country. Schiff can't handle being challenged, so he resorts to personal attacks and grandstanding. And then at the end, Schiff completely loses it and basically accuses Zeldin of not caring about children's health because he wants tax cuts for rich people and he's beholden to the oil industry. This is pure demagogic nonsense. Director Zeldin served our country in the military. He served in Congress representing the people of New York, and he's now serving in the EPA to make it more efficient and effective. But because he doesn't bow down to the radical environmental lobby, Schiff questions his character and his motives. This is what we're dealing with, folks. The radical left can't accept that the American people rejected their agenda. They can't accept that we want American energy independence, good-paying American jobs, and government that works for the people instead of special interest groups. So they resort to personal attacks, fear-mongering, and emotional manipulation. Let me tell you what Director Zeldin is really doing at the EPA. He's cutting wasteful spending that doesn't actually help the environment. He's ending programs that were more about advancing political agendas than protecting public health. He's restoring scientific integrity by ending the practice of using environmental agencies to push partisan politics. And he's putting American workers and American energy independence first. The truth is, we can have the cleanest environment in the world while also having the strongest economy in the world. We proved that during President Trump's first term. We don't need to choose between jobs and the environment, between American energy and clean air. That's a false choice pushed by people who want bigger government and more control over our lives. What we need is what Director Zeldin is providing: smart, efficient government that focuses on real environmental protection instead of political theater. We need policies that trust American innovation and American workers to find solutions. We need to end the regulatory overreach that ships American jobs overseas to countries with much worse environmental standards. And we need to call out the hypocrisy of people like Adam Schiff, who claim to care about the environment while supporting policies that make America dependent on countries like China for critical materials and energy. If you really care about global environmental protection, you want America to be energy independent, and you want American manufacturing to lead the world in clean production. This hearing perfectly illustrates why the American people voted for change. They're tired of politicians like Schiff, who use fear tactics and personal attacks instead of honest debate about policy. They're tired of bureaucrats who think they know better than working Americans how to run their lives and their communities. They're tired of environmental extremism that destroys American jobs while doing nothing to actually help the environment. Director Zeldin represents a new approach, one that puts America first, that trusts American innovation, and that believes we can have both a strong economy and a clean environment. That's exactly what we need, and that's exactly what's driving people like Adam Schiff absolutely crazy. So the next time you see this kind of unhinged performance from the radical left, remember what's really going on. They're not defending the environment. They're defending their power, their control, and their ability to use environmental agencies as weapons against American industry and American workers. Director Zeldin is taking that power away from them and giving it back to the American people, and that's exactly what we voted for. The American people spoke clearly in 2024. They want America First policies, they want government that works for them instead of against them, and they want leaders who will fight for American workers and American families. That's what President Trump is delivering, and that's what Director Zeldin is delivering at the EPA. All right, Patriots, that's the truth about what happened in this hearing that the mainstream media won't tell you. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and support us at patreon.com/America First so we can keep bringing you the real story behind the headlines. And let me know in the comments what you think about Adam Schiff's unhinged performance and whether you support Director Zeldin's America First approach at the EPA. Thanks for watching, and remember, America First always.